You are the observer before any thought exists, before any emotion arises, before any memory appears. And everything you call I, thoughts, feelings, fears, memories, are merely movements passing before this consciousness that is already there, silent, seeing everything without being any of it. The deepest Buddhism points exactly to this brutal shift. You are not what changes, you are that which perceives change. And as long as you keep confusing yourself with the flow of the mind, you will continue being carried away as if each wave were the entire ocean. But if you stay with this video, you can begin to directly feel the presence that observes everything without getting lost in anything. Consciousness is what is present before any thought arises, before any emotion touches you, before any story forms. It is what sees everything happening without becoming any of it. And everything you call I are just movements that appear within it and disappear. The deepest Buddhism points exactly to this brutal shift. You are not what changes, you are that which perceives change. And when you realize this in a real way, not as an idea, but as direct experience, something within you stops chasing what passes and begins to rest in the only point that never moves, the consciousness that observes everything without ever becoming what it observes. Your greatest mistake was not feeling too much. It was not thinking too much. It was not suffering too much. Your greatest mistake was confusing yourself with all of it. It was looking at thoughts and saying, this is me. It was looking at emotions and saying, this is me. It was looking at fears and saying, this is me. It was looking at the inner noise and handing your identity over to that noise. But whatever you are able to perceive can never be the totality of what you are, because if you see it, then you are not only what is seen. If you observe it, then you are not only what appears before observation. This is exactly where the deepest teaching comes in. You are the consciousness behind the thought, behind the emotion, behind the sensation, behind the memory, behind everything that passes. You are not what you think, not what you feel, not what you fear, not what you remember, because all of that appears before you and disappears, and what appears and disappears cannot be the deepest center of what you are. The deepest Buddhism points precisely to this brutal shift. There is within you a presence that sees everything pass without being what passes, and as long as you keep confusing yourself with the movement of the mind, you will continue to suffer as if each wave were the entire ocean. But if you stay with this video, you can begin to directly feel the silent consciousness that lies behind everything you experience. Think about this deeply. A thought arises, you perceive it. An emotion tightens your chest, you perceive it. A painful memory surfaces, you perceive it. A fear runs through your body, you perceive it. So everything that dominates you today is already being seen by something within you. And if it is already being seen, then there is something deeper than the content being seen. This is the point. This is the center. This is the cut. You are not the thought that arises. You are that which knows the thought has arisen. You are not the pain moving through the body. You are that which notices the pain moving. You are not the confusion. You are that which sees the confusion appear. The mind changes constantly. This is a fact. Now it wants one thing, then it wants another. Now it believes, then it doubts. Now it elevates you, then it brings you down. Now it praises you, then it destroys you. Now it says you will succeed, then it says you are worthless. How could something that changes like this be your deepest truth? Buddhism points to impermanence precisely to free you from the illusion that what fluctuates is what you are. If it changes, it cannot be the absolute center. If it appears and disappears, it cannot be the ultimate ground. What remains is the fact that all of this is being known. What remains is the consciousness behind every change. You spent years fascinated by forms and forgot the background, fascinated by thoughts and forgot who sees them, fascinated by emotions and forgot who feels them arise, fascinated by the story and forgot the silent presence before which the entire story unfolds. It is like looking at clouds your whole life and never noticing the sky. The clouds change, form, tear apart, darken, disappear. The sky remains. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are clouds. Fears are clouds. Memories are clouds. You, in the deepest sense of this experience, are the consciousness that remains behind all of this, the space in which everything appears. Every time you say, I am anxious, I'm broken, I am this pain, I am this chaos, you attach your identity to something that is passing, and suffering grows because you turn a visitor into an essence. You turn a state into an identity. You turn a movement into destiny. But when the vision shifts, everything begins to crack. You stop saying, I am this thought, and begin to notice there is a thought being observed. You stop saying, I am this sadness, and begin to notice there is sadness appearing in consciousness. You stop saying, I am this fear, and begin to notice there is fear arising before me. This small shift is not small. It is the beginning of freedom. Deep Buddhism calls you to look less at the content and more at the fact that the content is known. This detail seems simple, but it dismantles the entire prison, because the prison only exists as long as you believe you are the cell. The prison continues only because you call I what is merely passing through your field of consciousness. The moment you clearly see that thoughts, emotions, and sensations are happening within experience, but are not the ultimate center of experience, something loosens, something opens, something breathes. Because the observer is not carried away in the same way as the observed object. When anger comes, it burns, yet it is still seen. When guilt comes, it weighs heavily, yet it is still seen. When anxiety comes, it tightens, yet it is still seen. The fact that it is intense does not change what matters. It remains something appearing before consciousness, and this is what you need to imprint within yourself. No matter how loudly the thought screams, it is still perceived. No matter how violently the emotion shakes you, it is still perceived. No matter how painful the memory is, it is still perceived. So that which perceives is not the same as what hurts, what screams, what trembles. There is something in you prior to all of this. There is something in you behind all of this. The mind constantly tries to convince you otherwise. It wants you to believe that the narrator is the owner of the house. It wants you to think that the voice in your head is your being. It wants you to confuse the echo with the source. But the echo only exists because there is a space in which it resonates. Thoughts only appear because there is consciousness. Emotions are only felt because there is consciousness. Mental images only arise because there is consciousness. Even the sense of I, constructed by the mind, arises within consciousness itself. So notice the depth of this. Even the idea you have of yourself is observed. Even your mental identity is observed. Even the character is observed. You do not need to manufacture this consciousness. It does not need to be created. It is already here before any technique, before any practice, before any name. What you call presence, clarity, attention, or consciousness is not an invention. It is the most immediate fact of your experience. Everything that happens is illuminated by it. Everything you live appears within it. The problem was never the absence of consciousness. The problem was distraction with the contents. The problem was giving more value to what passes than to that which perceives the passing. The problem was kneeling before the waves and forgetting the silent ocean that sustains them all. When you begin to truly feel this, your relationship with life changes. You still feel, you still think, you still go through good and bad days. You still experience losses, desires, frustrations, and joys. But you no longer need to lose yourself completely within each movement, because a living clarity begins to arise. This is happening in me, before me, in the consciousness that I am. But this does not exhaust what I am. Sadness may be here, but I am not only sadness. Fear may be here, but I am not only fear. Thought may be here, but I am not only thought. Consciousness remains behind everything, seeing everything, sustaining everything without being reduced to any of it. And perhaps what shakes you most now is realizing how much of your pain was multiplied by forgetting, not only by suffering, but by forgetting who observes the suffering, not only by confusion, but by forgetting the consciousness that sees the confusion, not only by fear, but by forgetting the presence that perceives fear. You were not condemned to be chaos. You were hypnotized by it. You were not the entire storm. You were looking at the storm and calling yourself the storm. You were not the noise. You were hearing the noise within the silent space of consciousness and confusing yourself with the sound. Now feel this in the present moment. There are words being read. There are thoughts reacting. There may be agreement, resistance, emotion, doubt. All of this is appearing. All of this is being observed. What in you knows this right now? What in you perceives the thought as it forms? What in you remains present before the next emotion arises? What in you stands behind everything without having form, without having a face, without making a sound, simply seeing, simply knowing, simply being the unmoving consciousness behind everything that moves? And if this is what you are at the deepest level, what can truly imprison you when even the prison itself is being observed? Write in the comments, I am the consciousness that observes. Because what imprisons you is not only the content of experience, it is the forgetting of the place from which experience is seen. You have spent too long trying to fix the surface without returning to the depth, trying to reorganize thoughts, tame emotions, control sensations, clean up memories, improve your image, strengthen the character. But the deepest Buddhism does not begin by saving the character. It begins by weakening the illusion that the character is the real center. It shows that body, sensation, perception, mental formations, and the states of conditioned consciousness are observable processes, mutable, incapable of being held as a fixed self. And that is exactly why your attachment hurts so much. You are trying to lean on what moves. Look at your entire life and see this without running away. There was a child. There was a teenager. There were versions of you that thought in certain ways, desired certain things, feared others, believed in certain pains as if they were the end of the world. And all of that changed. The body changed. The voice changed. Tastes changed. Ideas changed. Wounds changed names. Hopes changed clothes. But in the midst of all this, there was always a silent fact. Everything was perceived. Everything passed before an intimate knowing, before a presence that never needed to make noise to be there. This is the point almost no one can sustain for long, because the mind fears this simplicity. The mind prefers stories, it prefers drama, it prefers identity, it prefers to say, I am this, I am that. But the observer does not shout. The observer simply sees, and that is why you suffer so much when you try to find stability in what is born and dies. You seek ground in emotion, it changes. You seek ground in thought, it changes. You seek ground in others' approval, it changes. You seek ground in your self-image, it changes. You even seek ground in pain, because at least it feels familiar, and it too changes. So your exhaustion is not an accident. It is the result of a lifetime trying to build a home within currents of water. Buddhism comes like a blade of compassion and says, stop leaning on the flow and return to that which perceives the flow.